Welcome back to the Swim Relay. I'm Tom, and I'm here with John and Vance and Graham, and we're grateful to share this podcast episode with you. Hope you enjoy it. Well, just on the break, that was a lot of fun. Brings up the idea of what kind of things do you put together in life to make life better? Whether it's swimming or just things you borrow from swimming, or maybe it's not swimming at all. But perhaps, how does it relate to something you've recently solved, a puzzle you've solved, or a problem you've overcome, or a problem you're still wrestling with?
Problem I'm still wrestling with is where does work end and my life stop or begin? End? Continue. Thank you. It's in there somewhere. Like, I feel I'm doing some cool stuff at work, but I feel like I get home and I'm still like work's on my mind, and it's very, very hard to shut it off. Which sounds like a terrible thing, but I think I'm trying to solve some interesting stuff. So I still have that problem with switching that off, and it bleeds into swimming sometimes, where I have a very, very, very long day and I just literally do not have the energy to go swimming, even though I know it'd be better for it. So, like, I don't know, I still struggle with that, turning that switch off. Like, my work life versus my life, and my life should be far more valuable.
100%. Yeah, that's why we have the same thing then, because I'm, and I don't know if this is a post-COVID thing and working from home thing, but I give too much to work, whether it's just stressing over something's happening or purely turning off at the end of the day, like just completely shutting it off. And yeah, it is a real struggle for me, and I'm not sure I've got it figured out yet. So I don't know if maybe I'm in that category of what is your current challenge, and how are you dealing with it? Right now, I'm kind of not. I recognize it as a challenge, so maybe it's something we can unpack here, and I can get some coping, mechanisms for it. But it's. I mean, even my little book I was showing the guys, it's right there, and the number, like one of the first pages is work-life balance. How can I be more present and but still add value to work? It's a big challenge for me.
If you're looking for coping mechanisms, I don't got one, so we're down to 50%.
Well, let's shut it down.
Pressure's on.
Well, that's great, folks. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah. Dump a whole bunch of baggage on the table.
Yeah, good luck with that, everyone. Yeah. Yeah. It is a big thing. I mean, you have to work, and I enjoy, for the most part, what I do, and certainly who I do it with. I work with a great group of people, and they're very supportive. But it's 8 to 10 hours a day. That's sitting in front of the computer or getting to and from work. That part of it, but it's the waking up in the night and kind of answering emails over in your head, or reflecting back onto what happened the day before. I think it's an unhealthy amount of focus in that direction. So the challenge, I guess, is balance, right? Because at the end of the day, do you want to be remembered for how much you put into work, or do you want to be remembered to how much you put into yourself and your family? Because if you make that a number one priority, I think everything would be better. Because we don't, if I had to choose, I'd probably just be retired and live on an island. But I have to work. So, to be better at that, I need to be better to myself. And then being better to myself will be better to my family, will be better to my friends, will be better in the pool. That's getting pretty deep now, but yeah. Balance. I struggle with it a lot.
Mm-hmm. It's super tough. I think I also do. One of those things that I've tried to realize and recognize is that work is very discreet in the description of it. It's very discreet in the exchange. It's very direct in terms of like your compensation for it. And so being like very susceptible to like, do this thing for this reward. It's you go to work, you earn this money, you do this thing, you have this project, you have a job description at work that you're kind of like all of the tasks that you do within your day are within that. Or, you take on a position where it's a little bit more ambiguous and those lines are a little bit more blurred and you have more strategic orientation than a job description per se. But you're doing a thing, you have a vision, you have a mission, you have a goal at work. I think outside of work, it's not that discreet or direct in terms of your relationship. You have friend relationships, you have your personal relationship with yourself, with your family, with the people you care about. And there's not like, you have to spend 4 hours here and 6 hours here and another 2 hours here. And don't forget your 4 hours or 8 hours of sleep and 2 hours of exercise. It's not directed for you, and you don't have direct benefits always. So to try and find balance in a thing that's undefined means that your balance is different than everyone else's balance. And that, I believe you're right. The more balanced you are, the better you are in all of those areas. But you're never going to get work to stand up for your personal time being infringed upon by work. You're just going to get more work, right? And so trying to find and carve out that time that you need for the swim or for the relaxation point or a beach vacation, like whatever that is that restores you, it can only be defined by you. So it's not defined by anybody else. It can only be advocated for by you. And you need to find the time to like define those things and stand up for those things for yourself, which is even more work to doing the thing in itself.
From my perspective, permission, when you give yourself permission to just be okay, if you have a job and it's working and people are externally validating it, that's to me a good indicator that there's a lot of value added. I've been wrestling with the work-life balance question for a long time, and here's where I've tentatively landed. I don't think that work-life balance is a term I can use with any sense of satisfactory resolution, because I don't think it exists. I've never found it. So I prefer to use the word work-life integration. And when I start to integrate my work with my life, I realize that there's moments where I'm in the zone, kind of like in the pool, getting wet. I got my bathing suit on. And there's moments when I'm out of the pool and I do not wish to get wet, or don't throw me in the pool with my clothes on, sort of thing. So I shift. And I read this book, and the gist of it was really quite good. It said, people typically call people that are two-faced as a derogatory term. It says, don't be two-faced, be six-faced. Be who you need to be to accomplish the goal. And so for me, I've been focused on, there's this deep sense of just showing up as who I am. And the second part is, what part of my personality do I need to let flourish to accomplish the goal? So when at work, obviously I'm not cracking dad jokes with my staff. But when I'm at home, I'm doing that with the family and the pets and stuff. And so you give yourself permission to switch, almost like an I am. And so for me, it's like, well, what stroke am I swimming today? Where it gets hilarious, and I have to laugh at myself sometimes, is sometimes I will misapply the stroke for the race, and that can be tough. And where I find work-life integration has been good for me is you get a sense of control over what you need to do. And I'll give you an example. A few months ago, I did a closing argument with one of my associates, and these things are an intense period. I mean, it's long days, and that's just the mode that you're in. So we always like to do our best work, and we have to assemble written submissions for closings. So in a matter of a couple of days, we somehow have to come up with a 60 to 90 page document. So needless to say, we're up like all night, but instead of going, oh, this is terrible, we kind of celebrate like we're back in college. And so I roll into court, 4 cups of coffee, present this thing. We take pride in trying to minimize typos. So instead of it being like this burden, we treat it as this almost celebratory challenge. And so for my one associate, in this case, it was Dave, it was like a bonding moment. It's like one of my best friends. And so we get this really cool friendship through work, through our hard task, and then we just switch. For the rest of the month, like we go home, we're not going to do that every day. So I've explained a lot of that because I think where I also get frustrated with when people say, Tom, you work too much. I'm like, I actually don't work enough. It's just you're seeing an integrated side of me that is switching. Now I do, I'll with one pause, I don't think people should answer emails at night. I think you should have the right not to have to swim with your clothes on. But that's where I've landed. I don't know what you think about integration. Throw some rocks at it, but it's working for me.
I've never heard of it before.
I made it up.
Okay. I like.
I make a lot of stuff up.
Maybe you should.
So I haven't heard of it before. Imagine if I said, yeah, I remember that article.
Like, no, wait a minute.
But my issue with it is, in work, you're giving up something, right? You're giving up life, in however you define it. So by integrating your work in your life, you're succumbing to the pressures of work. You're basically saying the work at this point is more important than everything else. By integrating it, I don't know, like it just troubles me. Like you can't argue for a hard separation, the way you're talking, but by saying, okay, I'm going to integrate my life with my work, to what end? Like, I think work for me is like, you're giving up something for some sort of future state, the island, right? The retired island thing. Like, so we're willing to give up a little bit of, let's say, ourselves or our family or whatever else for some sort of future goal, whatever that is. By integrating it, though, I don't know, it's scary to me.
Would it shock you if I felt like my island was the integration? Like that's how much fun it is.
Oh, no, well, okay. In your career, you're advocating for other people too. So you're giving up a bit of yourself for someone else, so there's a value in that. Maybe it's the purpose we're talking about.
Yeah, maybe.
Or the porpoise.
Is that a throwback to what I used to do?
Water or something?
I that whole cliche saying, I guess, like don't bring work home. So integration's kind of counter to that, but I don't think that's what you're really getting at. Like you said it, like you're not taking your emails home, but maybe my integration is that just being able to navigate it as the same version of myself all the time. So the integration is just me being authentic as I can all the time.
Like work isn't 9 to 5. It's
but I'd like for it to be that defined, but yeah.
Well, let me say something controversial.
This better be really controversial.
Really controversial. I think work-life balance is a lie, and I think pursuing it can to me it was an unattainable lie, and that's where I came up or made up the integration concept, because you can never have balance. It's like if you think about it through Star Wars lens, light side of the Force, dark side of the Force, you're constantly out of balance. There's no way on the various tasks that you're doing, on the various challenges that we meet in the jobs that we have, that you're going to get balance. The only time I could find balance is if I had that's the wrong way to put it. If I had a job that I found meaningless, and that would be like assembling widgets and assembling 8 hours a day. That would be the only thing that I could find balance in, because that would be like I did that for 8 hours and I did something completely different. But because I actually want to pursue some part of my brain, let it kind of put on background refresh for some of the things I'm preparing for tomorrow. The difference was with integration. I gave myself permission to be like, yeah, I got to do that tomorrow, and I'm not going to worry about it till tomorrow. Which was where I kind of checked off. Now I don't worry about stuff at night. I go to sleep every night going, okay, well, I've done all I can for the day, so no point in worrying about it.
But that's a good take on it. I guess it goes back to what you do too, whether or not like some situations, like being a lawyer, like integration is important because you have to apply those skills in your life and in work the same way. Like you have arguments or whatever, like you're making your point or you're looking into something or learning something new. But those 9 to 5 jobs where you go and you build something and then it's done, you put that down, you walk away. You don't need to integrate the two because it's just a job that you work and the task is defined. You have a defined job description, like you said, whereas what you're doing right now is not defined. So I guess it is completely situational, whether or not integration works or not, or you have to integrate.
I think it's John's turn to keep looking at him.
I'm trying. Yeah. John.
Usually say something.
Yeah, I think I went too long the last time I spoke. I don't know. Interesting perspectives for sure. I still find it hard to not let stuff bleed over also, like not only time-wise, but like emotionally. You're having a bad day, you bring that home, like trying not to bring it home. Like you're still the same person at work as you are at home. And if you're having a bad day at work, you're kind of having a bad day. And then you're at home, but you've had a bad day leading up to that. Like even if the thing you're going to do or the people you're around are the best people to be around, and it's, still tough not to let that thing carry over, and vice versa. Like if you're having a bad day at home and then you go into work, like sometimes you wear it on your face or whatever. But yeah, interesting concepts.
On the topic of work and work life, I can say that there's a strategy that I use to tell myself that if I can't get out of a job I have to do, I convince myself I'm having fun. And that's been really fun too. It's like, oh, this is tough. It's kind of like, and I used the pool technique like the other night. I really didn't want to do those 200s long course. Like halfway down the pool, there's that moment of about 75 meters where you're back, and it brought me back 30 years ago to how long course really is. And it's a long distance. Work's kind of the same way. If I have to swim the laps, I put in a mindset that is, well, it's going to make me stronger, or I'm going to get fitter, or some positive attribute. And by focusing on the positive in the difficulty of the task, those laps go a little easier. That's swimming. Swimming has been applied to that recently. Like if I have to stay up all night to work on an argument, at least I get to hang out with my friend Dave.
Yeah. Well, that's not. How'd you put it? You said you are trying to enjoy it, or but I mean that's genuinely just looking for things that you enjoy to make it better.
Yes.
Yeah. Looking for the positive in the challenging task.
Looking for fun in difficult tasks,
Yeah.
strategies to get it done as quick as possible.
Yeah, that can be a gamification.
And then do fun things.
And then do fun things. Rip off the Band-Aid.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes that's the thing. You just something you just don't want to do, but you got to do it, and then all of a sudden it's done, and then it's time to have have fun.
Or on to the next task.
Or go to the next task. But that's where we get in. That's where it gets hard to balance, because it's like, oh, I got this done now, and then I'll do the next one, then I'll do the next one, then all of a sudden.
Didn't we just argue that we weren't making widgets?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, making widgets. Yeah.
Is along the lines of work and integration, balance, whatever you want to call it. How do you seek out a sense of accomplishment and joy? Because in the pool, I almost always have this moment every practice where I go, I want to get out. Every practice. Or I could get out, but I'm going to keep going. And what's interesting for me is I've taken that I could get out of here mentality. In one practice, I did get out because my shoulder was hurting. And it was actually quite liberating. Because I came home and told my kids, they said, yeah, I realized as an adult, I can get out of practice. But here's the concept. What happens if you ran your work life like a swim practice? Because what I'm hearing is there's moments in work where you're not finding balance because there's nothing balanced about swimming 800 meters fast, or there's nothing balanced about putting on a suit and jumping into uncomfortable, highly chlorinated water. But isn't that kind of the experience that we're in? And when you start to frame it parallel to work, does that help you wrestle with something? How do you respond to that? Like, does that cause any sort of neurons to fire in a certain way to see things differently for any of you?
A little bit. The funny thing you mentioned, like you want to get a swim practice on occasion and sometimes do and find it super liberating. Like I find the same thing with work, but not with swimming. So like I'm trying to figure out why that is. I almost believe in the coach and the strategy of developing your stroke and your focus on your technique and everything, even though I don't want to do skull and then this weird drill that I don't enjoy. I do it because I was told to, and I trust that the people telling me to are more informed and know what I need to work on, or we as a group need to work on, and I'm not any exception to not work on it. And I feel like in work sometimes I don't always see the same. How do I put this? With swimming, you're with like people doing a like thing, and you're instructed by somebody who has, studied the thing that you're working on, and you're getting guidance from them. Often in a work scenario, it's completely different. You're not given instruction from somebody who has studied the craft that you're doing and told to, do this strategy or try this or do that. And it's somebody who is often a multitasker, risen but not done the work. And so they're a little disconnected from what you're doing, more so than a coach and an athlete. So for me, I trust in the process of the athlete-coach relationship more than the manager-subordinate relationship, maybe for that reason. But I don't know. And then it gets confusing for me when you have, you almost need peer groups to refine your craft in your discipline. And I guess different jobs are different like that. But for me in marketing specifically, often reporting to another marketing person or directly to the business owner, there's a lot of learning and understanding of each other that has to occur before you really understand the purpose and the intent of the actions that you're pursuing, if that makes any sense. So I don't know. Maybe that's not the question you asked, but that's just an epiphany that came to me when I was like, okay, well, why don't I ever want to get out of some practice? And why do I kind of want to step back from work? And, they're both passions of mine. I love both things. But maybe that's it.
Can I take a hack at that?
Of course.
I think, don't quote me.
I got my book here already.
Yeah.
Graham said.
Like in swimming, right? You're saying like-minded people, the outcomes are pretty well defined. Like you're swimming for, break a minute, or you're swimming because it's a good social place to be, or you're swimming because it's keeping you fit. Mm-hmm. Or longevity, exactly. Outcomes, though, in your work might be less defined or less obvious, right? Like you're working for something, and part of it is probably there's a profit side in there, and is that then aligned with what you want to do? So in swimming, your outcomes are aligned with everyone you're working with. Air quotes, working. In your work life, it might be harder to define because your outcomes are different. Like what you want to see happen might be different than what everyone else wants to see happen. So then there's a little bit of disconnect.
Can we do one more quick snapper to maybe integrate? I got another topic.
Yeah.
Apparently we weren't doing enough podcasts.
Yeah, no, we haven't. I was going to ask you what you're going to do to keep fit this summer.
I'm swimming. Me? Yeah. I'm on my kids' swim team. So we're doing that. Well, we all are.
Yeah,
we all join. Yeah. We all join the swimming, so we'll be doing that. I'm very fortunate this summer to have 2 months off work. So I'm looking forward to
painting my trailer.
Painting his trailer. But I'm going to focus on running. So I'm going to be doing that. And I want to try to do some triathlons. I'm very much looking forward to remaining active and injury free. So I'm doing it all smart. But yeah, that's what we're doing. I'm doing.
I want to pull my bike off the wall. I wanted to bike out to Westhill, but apparently there's no more water in that pool.
There's not currently any water in the pool. Yeah,
so don't show
up on Monday.
So
yeah,
that would be it. Probably add in biking into the rotation.
Yeah, road biking. Mm-hmm. I'll bike with you.
All right.
Yeah,
I'm in for it.
Yeah,
we're gonna find a masters biking thing after this.
We'll make one.
We'll do that.
Do you guys find that for me, I want to keep moving because as soon as I stop moving, it's so much harder to catch up now. Mm-hmm. So there is an incentive for me to say, keep this fitness up, because even Friday night when we hit the long distance, I can't imagine doing that without the base that we've built. Mm-hmm. Well, let me try to bring this together, because I know the creative director has enough here, and we're going to hopefully get some new episodes out, and eventually this this season we'll have some further web contacts that we can do, and maybe even some other episode ideas. But when you think about where this podcast has allowed you to share and the community connections, what is the podcast doing for you now that you didn't get before the podcast? Is it an easy icebreaker? Or is it just a good way for us to kick back and relax and reflect?
For me, it's certainly that, and you don't. It gives us this kind of, not say confined, but it gives us this time frame to come together. And like I today was great. I think this conversation was fantastic, but this, like, social situations typically don't allow for this kind of quiet conversation, right? And somewhat directed, because we're getting topics and stuff like that. But like, I had friends over the house last night, and the music was playing. 100 different conversations were happening. Or you're in the pool, you get the 2 seconds to talk. So the podcast is a good structure, a good to allow us to have good conversation. But as a reminder that you should make time to just unwind. And like, this for me is, I've experienced like therapy and stuff in my recent years, and I've learned from that therapy for me is just chatting with friends, and friends will listen. And if I can do it in a sort of venue like this, then that makes it even better, because there's no other distractions.
I'm fine letting that marinate.
Yeah, I was in the boat. I think for me, it is for sure the latter. I don't know that it opens doors or starts new conversations. It's just one of those things where I'm finding it very, very good in the moment. So I'm appreciating that.
Yeah, I mean, there's people listening, there's people watching, and that's great. But the selfish part of me here is like, this makes me feel good. And if anybody listening is getting anything from it, also awesome. But yeah, we could have just said, hey, let's show up to Tom's office and sit upstairs and shoot the shit for 3 hours. We'd get the same from it. So there's an added bonus, I guess, that it's a podcast and it's recorded.
I'd probably swear more.
Would you?
If it wasn't recorded.
Yeah.
Well, there's all sorts of benefits to technology.
Yeah. We can bleep it with things.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and views and perspectives with me today and listening to me. And I hope that the viewers have a similar experience, and there's been some thought-provoking conversations. And more importantly, find your relay. Celebrate each other. And thanks for watching. Thanks for watching. We hope you've been enjoying the relay. If you like what you're seeing and you want us to do more, please hit subscribe and hit that like. Stay tuned for future episodes. And if you have any suggestions about what you'd like to see more of us talk about, we'd like to hear from you.